And so here I'm debating, I'm wondering, do I just go for it? And I do. Hey everyone, it's Adakai TCG, and I'm coming back at you with another deck profile video. But before we begin, I just want to say thank you so much for 1,000 subs. I am still putting together the giveaway, all the rules and assets, and getting the pricing together as well. And so I will be announcing that mid this week. But yeah, thanks for bearing with me. I'm back from vacation, and I'm actually back home in my house after being displaced for almost 2 weeks now. Or actually, it was over 2 weeks rather. And so, yeah. I also do plan on doing events as well, and so webcam tournaments with some really cool prizing, and so be on the lookout for that. And one last thing, promise last announcement, I will be at Peoria offline regionals, and so if you are there, come find me. I will have a lot of cards on me, and I'll be running a really cool promo in person. And so, yeah, but today, let's get into the deck profile video. Alright, so today we're going to be going over the deck profile I have for the Starter 12 ZoroSanji leader. For those of you who don't know this leader, it is a multicolored leader, being green and blue. It's a 5k power leader with both the slash and strike attribute. And yeah, he's 4 life, and what his leader ability is Dawn ×1. When attacking, once per turn, you may return one of your characters with a cost of 2 or more to your hand, and then set one of your characters with 7,000 power or less as active. And so this leader is really fun. You are swinging with him, returning cards to your hands, or characters to your hand, restanding characters, swinging again. And so, one, he gets a lot of swings into your opponent's either board or life. And then 2, you get to reuse a lot of really cool on-play effects. And so with the release of 07, we see that, yeah, this leader just got quite a few cards that really play well into this leader ability. And again, thank you for everyone who had given their insight on potential deck lists. A few days ago, or actually a week or so ago, I had asked people for potential deck lists just so I can get an idea of where to start. And after a lot of testing now, I landed on this iteration that I'm about to show you guys. And yeah, it is so fun. It is actually quite powerful, even into the meta decks. And so I do have some gameplay at the end of this video as well. And so be sure to stick around for that if you want to see how the deck runs. But yeah, let's get started. So we'll go over the 2Ks first, as per usual. And this deck is running a ton of 2Ks. And so I think you're running 15 altogether. And so we are running 4 copies of the 3-cost Dracula Mihawk. He is a 3-cost 4K body with a 2K counter. And on play, if you have 2 or less characters, play up to 1 Monkey Kingdom type or slash attribute character card with a cost of 4 or less, other than Dracula Mihawk from your hand rested. And so what this deck is doing, and you'll see, is we're cheating out a ton of bodies and then resending those cards back into our hand to basically either use as counter or swing again. But this card is a 2K counter, which means it's really defensive in hands. It is a 3-cost, meaning that it is viable to utilize Sanji and Zoro's ability. And it lets you cheat out another body with a slash attribute when that's a 4-cost or less. And so we're primarily playing 2 different characters with that ability, which we'll go over in the future, but very strong card. And he's a 4K, meaning we can attach 1 Dawn to it. You can swing with him and then utilize ZoroSanji's ability to send it back in hand after it's rested. And so a lot of cool combos you can do with this card. Very strong. It's a staple. You need to run it at 4 of. Next, we're running 4 copies of the 4-cost Crocodile. He's a 4-cost 5K body with a 2K counter. On play, you can rest 1 Dawn, and then up to return 1 character with the cost of 2 or less to the owner's hand. So you can bounce back chump blockers into your opponent's hand. Like say they're playing green, they have a ZoroSanji blocker or a Shirahoshi blocker, you can bounce this back up. Or you can bounce back up your searchers as well. And so very, very strong card. It's a 2k counter, it's a 4 cost, and it's also a 7 Warlords. You're going to notice that we are playing the 7 Warlords package. It's just way too strong right now. And so if you're playing blue, pretty much everyone in blue is utilizing that package. We are running 4 copies of the 4 cost Dracula Mihawk 2k counter. It's a 4 cost 5k body, 2k counter, and then you can give it 1 Dawn, and when attacking, you draw 2 cards and trash 2 cards from your hands. And so, really, really good card. It's another 4 cost 5k body that can be played out by, you'll see in the future, Jinbei, but there's a ton of bodies that can be played out by Jinbei in this deck, which we'll be going over soon. But yeah, he's also giving you hand cycle, which is very valuable. You'll be able to fix your hands. But this deck also just has a ton of draw power, and so yeah, it's very defensive too, which is great because you are a 4-life leader, and so even when you're trashing cards, there's ways to get it back from the trash to your hand and just keep drawing deeper into your deck. And so very, very, very strong card. And lastly, we are running 3 copies of the 4-drop 4k power Trafalgar Law. This is from the new set OP07. It's a 2k counter, and you can activate main. You may return this character to your owner's hand. If your opponent has 6 or more cards in their hand, then the opponent places 1 card from their hand to the bottom of their deck. And so you are stripping 1 card from your opponent's hand if they have 6 cards. He's also a target that you can play with the 3 cost Dracula Mihawk. And so you can play him out, have him swing, return him back to your hands. I guess the following turn you have him swing, because you can't swing the same turn he's active. But you can swing with him, return him back to your hands, you get the 2k back, and then now your opponent has a trash card in their hand. And so you're just getting so much value from being able to cheat out these bodies and then just return them to your hands. And so very strong card. Those are our 15 2ks. Next, we're going to go over the Warlords, rest of the Warlords package, and then we'll go over the rest of the deck. We are running 4 copies of the 3-drop Doflamingo blocker from OP01. He's a 3 cost 4k power, 1k counter on it. He does have the blocker attribute, and then on play, you look at the top 5 cards, and you can rearrange them in any order and place them on the top or bottom of your deck. And so it does give us insight onto what is coming next. And so if there's cards that we need to draw into, we want to draw into for our combos, or we need a boss monster, or we need a certain event, Dofi is going to help us set that up and dig deeper into our deck with that. And yeah, it's just an overall very strong card. He's a blocker. There's even turns where I'll just basically attach it on, swing with him, return it back to my hand to restand another card that I swung with earlier, swing with that card, then replay the Dofi just to get the on-play effect again. And so, very strong card, very versatile. There's so many playlines with this deck. And so I think the more you play it, the more you can start seeing all these different playlines. We are going over probably the most important card of this deck, at least what it feels like. It's 4 copies of the 4 cost 5k Jinbei. He has 1k counter on it, and on play, you can play up to one of your 7 Warlords type characters with a cost of 4 or less. Other than Jinbei from your hand. And so we are running a ton of 4 cost 7 Warlords. And so just being able to cheat out 2 bodies for just 4 Dawn is amazing. And you're building this wide board that's just flooding, and you have all these Warlords with really strong on-play effects. And so this is kind of the card that really levels this deck up. One of my favorite cards to play with at Jinbei is the 4 copies of the 4 cost 6k Edward Weevil. He is a 4 cost 6k, which is really, really great vanilla stat values, but he has an even better on play, which is just draw a card. And so essentially, if you have both of these in your hand, you can play Jinbei for 4 cost, cheat out the Weevil, draw a card which replaces it, and now you develop 2 really medium-sized bodies, and your opponent is left wondering what they're going to do. And so, yeah, very strong card. Him being at 6k is also very nice. You only need to attach 1 Don with him. He's 7k. You can always restand him with Zoro as well. So strong. And then we are running 4 copies of the 4-cost 5k Gecko Moria. This is from Starter 3, and he has 1k counter, and on play you can add 1 Warlords of the Sea or Thriller Bark Pirates type characters with a cost of 4 or less other than Gecko Moria from your trash to your hands, meaning that we're able to pick back up any one of our 2k counters. And so, yeah, this card is very strong because you never feel bad to counter out of an attack because we can always grab it back, right? And so I've had turns where, like, on turn 2, I'll just 2k counter out of like a 5k swing. Then my next turn, I'll play the Gecko Moria, grab back the 2k counter, and now I'm chilling. It's like I didn't even waste any cards. And so, very, very strong card. Really cool. We are running 3 copies of the 3-cost 3k Bartholomew Kuma. I really like this card. I overlooked it at first, but a few of the decks that I was seeing were running this, and the more I played it, the more I really saw its value. And so it's a 3-cost 3k body, which is not a great stat line. It has a 1k counter, but on play, you look at the top 2 cards of your deck, reveal 1 7 Warlords type card, and add it to your hand, then place the rest in the bottom, top of your deck in any order. And so you get to look at your cards 2 cards deep, and most likely draw a card because pretty much everything here is a 7 Warlords so far. And so this card is hardly ever missing. And then it's a really good target for your Zoro effect too, right? And so you can, sometimes I don't even swing with it before I send it back to my hand, and then I can just play it out again next turn to draw yet another card. And so just the card draw value and the card replacement value is just really, really good in this deck. There's so many ways to keep drawing cards with this deck, and so I really like it. But yeah, we're running it at a 3 of, just for now. So that's the 7 Warlords characters-wise. We are running 4 copies of Sengoku, who's the 1-cost 2k power with the 1k counter. And on play, you can look at the top 5 cards and reveal 1 7 Warlords type character, and then or type card rather, and then place the rest in the bottom of your deck in any order. And so he's just our basic searcher, being able to search out any of our characters here, as well as certain events that we're running, which we'll see later on. And yeah, and our boss monster too, which is really, really good. We are running 2 copies of Charlotte Pudding. This card is just too good into matchups like Enel and matchups like Black Yellow Luffy, where they're just having so many cards in hand. Being able to place a well-draw pudding will sometimes just make that game swing so much into your favor. And then our last character is our only boss monster, which is the 10-drop Doflamingo. Really cool thing is he is a 7 Warlords type character, meaning that you're able to get this card from your Sengoku, from your Kuma, and so you're able to search it out when you need it. And we are still running it at 4 copies though. But on play, what he does is you basically freeze up to a total of 3 of your opponent's leader and character cards. And so, very defensive card. When you're playing this card, you often already have a really wide board established. And so, just buying yourself 1 turn, or rather negating 3 swings back into you, can sometimes just end the game and swing the game back into your favor so that you can close it out the following turn. Very, very cool card, very strong card. Lastly, we're going to go over the events. I'm running 2 copies of You Can Be My Samurai. When a deck is able to cheat out so many bodies so quickly, and with a leader ability that lets us bounce cards back to our hand, we can just get so much card draw value, right? Like, you know, you can play your Mihawk into, I don't know, your Law, rest both of them, send one back using your leader ability. It's just so good, just being able to draw this many cards. You can argue not running any copies of this, but it was just one that I've been testing, and I just really love it when I have it in hand because it's been able to draw me into the counters that I need, or just the cards that I need to pull off some of these combos, and it's very strong. And so I am also running 2 copies of Perfume Fameur. This is the 2-cost event, which is basically like the blue version of Diablo Onigiri for 7 Warlords type characters. You can select up to one of your 7 Warlords characters or leader cards, or character cards, and it gains 2,000 power during the turn. Then, if the card attacks during the turn, your opponent cannot activate a blocker. And so, a really cool way to end the game, right? Say you have any of your Warlords out, you're paying 2 Dawn for it, but it's okay because you still maintain that value because you're giving a 7 Warlords type character 2,000 power anyway. So you can basically swing with it unblockable for 7k first, and then you swing with your leader, just send back any 2-cost or higher character back to your hand, restand it, you can attach the rest of your Dawn, and now you're swinging with it again where it's unblockable. And so very, very strong card, especially because that card is able to attack twice at times. And lastly, rounding it out, we are running 2 copies of the 7-cost Gravity Blade Raging Tiger, where you place 2 characters with a cost of 6 or less at the bottom of the deck in any order. Bottom of your owner's deck in any order. And so this is just a really good card, and to so many matchups. We are in a meta where things are being cheated out, and the board is flooding like crazy. Being able to bottom deck 2 6-cost or less characters will help you win things like the Black-Yellow Luffy matchup, the Lucci matchup, even the Bonnie matchup, and so ton of different play lines you can do with this. I'm running at a 2 of. I think the events are a little flexible here. You can argue dropping You Can Be My Samurai to run more Gravity Blade Raging Tigers, or even some other events like Red Rock and etc. But this iteration has been one that I just really enjoyed playing. It's really, really strong. And so without further ado, let's get into some gameplay. Okay, so this first game I'm going up against the Black-Yellow Luffy. I did decide to go second. And so I mulliganed because I did want to try to get my Jinbei Edward Weevil combo or see a Pudding, which I saw neither of, and so that's okay though, because we do have the 3-cost Dofi, meaning that I'll be able to set up the next 5 cards in my deck, and so I'm not too worried at this point. So they do play the Makino, and then they go 7 at lead. I'll take it. I get the Gravity Blade, which is great. It'll be a really good card to play against their Sabo blockers, and so here I'm just gonna swing 6 with my leader, and then play the Dofi. In hindsight, I think swinging 6 might have been a mistake because I do make his 5-drop Luffy live at 2 life, and so pro tip, try to leave the Luffy at 3 life, make him take his own, at least for the 5-drop Luffy turn. And so again, he is able to do it now, clearing my blocker. And swings 5. 5 is a little low, so I will choose to counter it. I want to stay a little bit healthy. And so we do see the Jinbei, meaning that I'll be able to play out 2 bodies this turn. I choose not to send back the Makino into his hand for obvious reasons. And then I do choose to swing at his leader. I'm okay with him going down to 0 here. I do have the Gravity Blade for his Sabos, and so I kind of want to bait him into start playing his Sabos so I can just bottom deck it. I did choose to use the Samurai ability, which lets me draw cards by tapping my 2 characters. Yeah, because I wanted to draw a little bit deeper into and get my hand size a little bit healthier. And so here he does use the Egghead Luffy again, using his leader ability, and then he plays the Sabo out. And he's able to clear my board, which is okay. We are still kind of feeling okay because we have the Gravity Blade. I choose not to use it this turn because I want him to have both Sabos out before I start to use it. Bottom decking one just doesn't seem as advantageous to me right now. And so I'm setting up the top of my life. And here, I was deciding whether to play out another character, but I decided to just strip a card out of the opponent's hand by swinging 9 into his life. And so he does counter, I believe, if I remember correctly. Yep, he counters, and I'll pass it over to him again. And so he's still not a 10-don, meaning he can't do a Gecko Moria play, but he's able to drop a Garb Searcher and pick up a baby ace, and he is now able to utilize his leader ability once more. My opponent's thinking for a little bit. Yeah, Black Yellow Luffy is one of those decks where every single play matters. What card you discard matters. What baby brother you choose to play really matters. And so he does opt to play out 2 aces here into his life. So he plays the first ace. He will swing at me for 7. I'm debating whether to counter it, but I don't. He plays out another ace, and he's able to get it to be a 9k swing, which I take. And perfect, I got the Perfume from her, with meaning that next turn I'll be a 10-don. He is a 9k life, and he does have 6 cards, but I did strip a few cards out of his hand with some attacks, and he did play out of the 2k as well. And so here I'm debating, I'm wondering, do I just go for it? And I do, because I don't think I'm going to survive another turn, realistically, and so put everything on the Jinbei, unblockable, 15k, and he's unable to block out of it. And so, yeah, won the first one. Alright, so the next match we're up against Enel. He does choose to go second, and I do choose to mulligan because I'm looking for the Jinbei, the Edward Weevil, and also puddings, and so I think those are going to be really valuable in this matchup. Luckily, we do pull the Jinbei and Edward Weevil, and we draw into a second Edward Weevil. So here we're just going to swing 8k at the leader, and we'll pass. I do want to get Enel down to 2 before I start swinging for life and for threatening game. I know I need to establish at least 2 characters on the board and have them stick, and so yeah. Oh, we do draw into the pudding, which is beautiful now, and so the game plan rather is going to be to flood the board, build this Enel's hand out, and then start putting to strip those cards out. And the really cool thing about Sanji Zoro is one pudding can go a very long way, in that you can drop the pudding, swing with your Sanji Zoro to put that pudding back into your hand and restand another character. And so really cool combo you can do with this deck, especially against Enel. So all you really need to do is see 1, and so that's great. Here he does play at the Shirahoshi, both the blocker and the one that draws 3 trashes 2. And so I play the pudding out, stripping the card advantage the Enel has. I swing with Edward Weevil, then swing with my leader to put the pudding back into my hand to restand the Edward Weevil. And so now the Enel player is going to have to start thinking about either blocking or countering. And so he does block. And I just choose to use the 1-cost event, Will You Be My Samurai, to draw 2 more cards, utilizing the 2 standing cards that I have. I wanted to leave the Enel at 2, and I don't think he's going to swing that high into my board, and so I felt pretty confident that I could at least protect it from the swing. And so he plays the Katakuri to put another Shirahoshi back into his hands. And so my game plan at this point is to keep flooding the board, reactivate that Shirahoshi, and then play the pudding out again. And so the way I'll do it is I'll swing with Edward Weevil. He takes it, activates Shirahoshi to draw more cards, and then I'm gonna drop my pudding to strip those cards out of his hands. And we can attack with Jinbei. Here he has to think, because I can also restand my Edward Weevil after I swing with the Sanji, and so, which I do. I put the pudding back into my hands and restand the Weevil, meaning he's gonna take, he's gonna have to counter out of that. I choose not to swing with the Weevil at this point because it'll just give him a free card cycle, and so instead I just chose to pass. So now he swings 5 at my Jinbei. I'm thinking about countering it so that he's forced to swing into it with Katakuri, which he does. And then he has Tendon, meaning he has the ace, and he's going to swing 10 at me. I do take it. That's fine. We do have the Dofis now, and so it's the perfect time to drop it. We lock those 3, and now we can comfortably swing into his leader, forcing him down to either a really low life counts or stripping the remaining cards out of his hand. And so we'll swing with Edward Weevil. He chooses to counter out of it with the event, and then I swing with my leader. He takes it, and here I think he triggers the Luffy and KOs one of my Weevils. And so I think in this matchup, Enel actually super high rolls all of his triggers, if I remember correctly. And so, yeah, I'll show you the strength of this deck even against an Enel that's just getting all the triggers in the world. And so he plays out a Katakuri again to put his Shirahoshi back into his life. And then I think he plays a Hiyori here, to grab the Shirahoshi back, and then he's putting something back into his life, which I assume would be the zero cost event. I think that's the only thing that makes sense. So we're going to lock the 3 leaders again, or the 3 characters, leader and characters, sorry, can't speak today. And then we're just going to keep swinging at his life, which he does counter, which is okay. He's stripping more cards out of his hand. He does have the zero cost event, putting him back at 2 life, but we're comfortable swinging down here at this point. I still do have a ton of cards in hand, and so I'm feeling okay. Here he swings 9 into, I think, Jinbei. I do choose to counter it just because I have so many cards in hand, and I wanted the most number of swings I could get for my next turn. So he plays the Yamato, and that's fine. And so here I do have a lot of attacks. He only has 1 card in hand, so I'm feeling pretty confident. So I swing 7 at lead. He takes it. He gets another Shirahoshi trigger, so I think it's the second one so far. Yeah, this guy has triggered so many things in this matchup. His zero cost event, that's fine. I will swing and send Jinbei back to restand Weevil. And he gets, I think, another trigger here. Yeah, he gets another trigger to KO my Weevil, which is crazy. So I swing with Dofi, and he gets another zero cost event trigger. And so this guy has successfully triggered so many cards in the last couple swings, and so I'm unable to go for lethal anymore. So I'm thinking about the playlines here. I do have the Weevil in the hand, and so I do choose to play it out just to draw the extra card because it has no counter in hand anyway. And so I'm able to draw into at least a 1k counter. And then I pass over to my opponents. Here I did do a little bit of a misplay, I remember. There was an attack I should have countered out of, but I do believe it's okay. So here he swings high into my Dofi. I think he didn't think he had Fatal on me because of the number of cards I had in my hand, and so I do choose to counter out of this fairly easily. And then he will don up his Katakuri next. And this is the attack I definitely should have countered out of, because counting his Dawn, he can swing 10 and 11 here, and I'm able to counter out of both. And so I would have more number of attacks. So I don't know why I misplayed it. I for some reason, I counted 13, and I was like, oh, I have to give up both anyway. And so I had enough to counter both of those attacks. And so I should have two 10-drop Dofis still alive at this point. But again, even with that misplay, I can show you the strength of this deck. We are able to still just be very aggressive with what we have on the board. So we swing 7 with Edward Weevil, which he pulls another Shirahoshi, which is just insane. It's just so much. I think every card, everything has been a trigger so far, and so I play the Mihawk just so I have something to send back to restand my Weevil. And he pulls a beige trigger. Luckily, though, we still have the last attack to close out the game, and we win this. And so you can see, even though he high rolled like 3 Shirahoshi triggers, a beige, 2 Rocket Luffys, 2 zero-cost events, this deck was still able to just shred through the Enel. Yeah, so thanks for watching, guys. I would say give this deck a try. It's really, really fun. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. If you guys have any other iterations of the deck that you've tried, any other cards that felt really strong that I'm not running. This deck is still a work in progress for me, rather. And so, yeah, check it out and stay tuned. I'll have a lot more videos coming out this week, along with the giveaway announcement. And so, thank you so much for watching. Adakai out.